Welcome into the GigEm247 Sports Podcast. I am Andrew Hattersley, joined by Brian Perroni on a post-visit weekend and a post-commitment weekend. We'll get to that in a little bit. A little bit of good news for A&M fans on Sunday night with an addition out of the transfer portal. Brian, how's everything been going?
Oh, not bad at all. I mean, it's nice to have some stuff to cover. Like you talked about, A&M had a bunch of guys on campus this weekend. Texas had that really big junior day, and they had a whole bunch of guys on campus, some really highly ranked ones, but also some kids without offers. They just invited a lot of folks. A&M was trying to keep it pretty small and intimate so they could spend time with recruits, and I think it worked for sure. I mean, no commitments. We'll talk about it. No commitments coming out of the weekend, but still, A&M made strides with a bunch of guys.
No doubt. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that we kind of got was how intimate and how genuine those kind of relationships were. And I think it really seemed to resonate with some guys like Aaron Noland and Ryan Wingo and Casey Poe's another one, and Xavier Atkins, guys that it really seemed like they got to spend a lot of time with and could come out of this weekend with a little bit of momentum in those recruitments. Tennessee is obviously a school that is going to be tough for Ryan Wingo. He's made a lot of trips, and I expect that to kind of continue. But starting with the good news, Tyrin Smith, the UTEP transfer, announced his commitment to Texas A&M on Sunday night. He was on campus on Saturday for a visit and confirmed with GigEm247 that he would be enrolling this week for classes and good to go there. So, quality addition, I think, Ryan. We've talked about this before. Not every guy is going to be a star at a Power 5 school, and those guys, you're going to find those guys, but you've also got to be able to hit on some guys like this that are coming up from the G5 level, looking for a bigger opportunity, a bigger stage. And I think that's kind of what you get with Tyrin Smith.
Oh, for sure. I mean, so first of all, Tyron Smith is why I never believe junior college coaches when they give me their heights and weights and the measurements. Okay, we had him on his profile when he's coming out of Cisco Junior College. We had him on his profile as 5'10", 180. Because that's probably what Cisco had him listed at. UTEP has him listed at 5'7", 170. And if he's listed at 5'7", he's probably shorter than that. It's like,
Probably
come on,
5'6".
like Cisco, you're really gonna send a 5'6" kid and say he's 5'10"? But I tell you what, man, I did not know much about him. But his sophomore film is out there from UTEP, and I mean it's fun to watch. Yeah, he's real small, but he plays in the slot and he just gets up and goes. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards receiving this year. Was honorable mention All Conference USA. So I mean, he's a proven guy. A&M, depending on if Anaya Smith comes back, A&M doesn't really have a proven guy there in the slot. So I think he could be pretty valuable. And even if he doesn't start, I mean, other schools were after him. Cincinnati was after him real hard. So, but even if he doesn't start, I mean, he's a guy that's gonna, get you, he throw the ball to him on third down. I mean, he's gonna get a first down. He may not have the most top end speed after the catch. I mean, he's probably not going to be like, A-Chain running away from dudes on the sideline, but he has a knack for getting open right there in the middle of the field, and he'll move the chains. So, I mean, I think he can be a valuable piece of this offense.
No doubt. I kind of describe him as crafty, the way I kind of saw his film and how he gets open. Watched his highlights from his sophomore film, and then also turned on because I wanted to kind of see how he would do against a Power 5 program. Turned on the film for the game against Oklahoma. Now UTEP lost that game, but watching him, one of the things I took away, I think he does a nice job when a quarterback's scrambling or under pressure, finding those little pockets, those little holes to make himself available. And that's what you kind of need. That's one of the things that experience brings to you playing on the college level, is being able to find those seams. Is he a guy that can probably be a number one receiver? No, nobody's saying that, but I think he's a guy that gives you depth, that gives you somebody that's been in college, that's gone through classes, that's gone through a regimented schedule, and that brings value as well. And so, I think he's kind of an intriguing addition. He finished last year, led UTEP with 71 catches for 1,039 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he does kind of show that big play ability on film, running, some corner routes, some slot corner routes, some fade routes. not the traditional routes you really see out of the slot
Yeah.
position, but brings some explosiveness.
No, for sure. I mean, he's the proven aspect is a big deal. I mean, Evan
Yeah,
Stewart's going to be your number one guy. Moose Muhammad is up there, but yeah, just the fact that he's proven and has done it. I think you're going to see him a lot. And some fans may complain, oh, he's small, whatever. He had 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, Conference USA is still college football, still
yeah,
FBS football, and yeah, I mean he had 1,000 yards receiving. He's proven it, and A&M is nowhere close to the 85-man limit.
yeah,
So it's not like oh no, this kid's going to cost a scholarship spot that somebody else could take. I mean, they're not close. So
yeah.
you need the guys. And yeah, we said that from the beginning though. They're going to have to, even if he was just a depth guy, they're going to have that.
Exactly, and that gets into one of the other debates that has been going on, looking at A&M's transfer portal activity. A&M, it's no secret they return a lot of starters from last year's team, and in some cases that may be hurting them in certain recruitments. We had kind of heard rumblings that two transfer portal DBs could be on campus this weekend and didn't end up making it in. Depth chart was one of the reasons that was kind of given as a potential reason that today didn't come in. Where do you stand on that? Like, do you think that's a valid concern or something that A&M should be able to recruit around, given they have plenty of spots left to
Yeah.
fill?
Yeah. I mean, A&M when it comes to high school, A&M is has great recruiters on staff. Jimbo
Yeah,
Fisher is a great recruiter. They can sell things to high schoolers. I just don't think they have quite the mindset of how to sell, maybe if it's not as open. I mean, these receivers want to go to a place where they can be the number one guy. Jalen Jones is leaving for the NFL, so that did open the door for Tony Grimes to
yeah,
transfer in at cornerback. But yeah, the other spots, just don't have I guess, the immediate, they would have to beat out a proven starter. And yeah, A&M went 5-7. So, most spots that would be possible, but yeah, they'd have to beat out a proven starter, and kids don't want to do that. There's a reason they're transferring. I mean, maybe it's like A.D. Mitchell is going to Texas and, hey, I've already won 2 titles. So let's go somewhere else close to
yeah.
home. I mean, who knows? But most of them want that opportunity to showcase for the NFL. And, they're worried about, hey, these guys already have relationship with the coaches. They would have a leg up, as returning starters. So I do think it's a valid issue, but I also think it's something that A&M, at least with a few guys, should be able to sue, should be able to get past, but they just don't have the mechanisms in place to recruit the portal. And it's a little surprising given, how long they've been able to. I mean, they had to sort of prepare for this portal cycle.
No doubt, and we had kind of heard, they might be more active, and I know they've certainly brought guys in on campus.
Mhm.
They've taken their swings at guys. Mason Cobb is one that comes at a big need at linebacker, and I still think they do need to, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's this with the guys that are still left after this portal window, or the late portal window. Because reminder, there is a second portal window that comes in
Mhm.
May, from May 1 to May 15. They're going to need to find a linebacker in the portal who can come in, and it could be a guy similar to Tyrin Smith that kind of comes from the lower level that's looking
Mhm.
for more exposure, a bigger conference. I think that's kind of where, if you look at some of the guys they had traction with or buzz with, some of it was those guys like, Grant DeBose was a name that was mentioned, a guy
Mhm.
from Charlotte that was potentially going to have the opportunity. He ended up returning to Charlotte and then declaring for the NFL draft. But a guy like that who has the opportunity to come into the SEC and potentially get more film on that
Oh, for
stage,
sure.
I think those are the guys, because I do think it's a valid concern. Look, the offensive line, I know fans would love A&M to add an offensive tackle. They would. But the reality is you have a guy like Trey Zune that started every game last year. You have Ruben Fothery on the other side. There's just not an easy selling point for a for a lineman to come in and be able to beat out one of those guys. Now, fans may think that a guy can come in and beat it, but that's just not the way recruits necessarily see it.
Well, at that position, we're not going to know if it was a not a selling point or if it was a
because
stumbling
A&M
block
hasn't
because
even
A&M
targeted.
was
Yeah,
not pursuing any offensive
yeah,
linemen. So, I mean, I think that may be the one position that's most maddening to fans is there were a few. I mean, okay, tackles in the portal, just like tackles in high school, they're the most
yep.
coveted guys of any. I mean, that's why you saw Dylan Wade from Tulsa, who's originally from Houston. I mean, he blew up as soon as he entered. He had 30 offers from every big name school because everybody wants those tackles. But yeah, the fact that A&M didn't even try is a little confusing. I guess we'll see if that was a good idea or a bad idea.
No doubt. And I mean, let's give A&M their due credit that if you look at, they said they would attack the portal in certain instances. They've obviously got more work to do. There's no doubt. They've signed 3 guys this cycle now, which is more than they had signed the past
Ever. That's
couple of
like
years
they'd
ever
only
combined,
signed
which is a
two ever.
low
Yeah.
bar. So they have at least kind of added some more guys. I think they've got more work to do, and a guy like Tyler Harrell's a guy that as of Monday has not announced a decision. A&M's still in the mix for him. Miami's a weird one to figure out. It's close to home. As of last week, there wasn't a lot of confidence on the Miami side. Now there was more confidence or more buzz this weekend, it seemed like, with Miami. But coming out of that visit, I know you and I both kind of got the feedback that A&M seemed to be in a strong
Yeah.
spot for Tyler Harrell. And again, there wasn't a lot of confidence, and that was restated to me again Sunday, by certain people.
But the
The
transfer
transfer
portal,
portal
these
was weird.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, these kids change their mind all the time and just whatever. I mean, A&M has felt good about a few guys that ended
Yep.
up elsewhere, but yeah, it's just crazy. And South Florida kids are just it's a different attitude. I mean, they're great at football and that attitude brings them a lot, but it's just a different thing. I mean,
Yeah.
in
Things
high school,
change
yeah, in
quickly.
high school they decommit and commit to different places all the time. So I mean, he
Yeah.
very well could just love Miami. Who knows? He needs to decide though, because I think everybody has started school. So
Exactly.
he's got to get in classes. I guess he could return to Louisville for the spring and just go to class, but he should probably get on campus. So.
Or Bama. Yeah. Or go to Bama
Oh,
for the spring.
yeah, I'm an idiot.
Um,
He's not in Louisville, Bama.
but that was obviously he was obviously a very productive player and has ties to Bobby Petrino, and so that kind of felt like a natural fit. That's the right mindset to go target the guys that you have at least a relationship with, and guys that you kind of have that connection with. Positive news: they've got 3 guys in the fold. Like I said, low bar considering they've been virtually non-existent in the portal the past couple of years, but at least they've got those 3 guys, and I think they've got more work to do, and I think they definitely know that. The season doesn't start till September. I know fans kind of want to see immediate results and immediate progress. But if they land a linebacker in the spring and kind of add to that room, I think they could do with one more linebacker. We'll get to more of that in the next segment. But I think it's certainly an interesting topic, and the returning starters is one thing they've had to battle with. I think they could also do a better job being out in front in some of these kids. I still don't think they have kind of the portal
Yeah,
infrastructure in place that a lot of other schools have.
yeah, you
Um,
got to work like the high school coaches and stuff. Like that's completely legal. People want to talk about tampering. You can talk to the high school coaches all you want, and they know when the kids are going to enter the portal.
yeah.
So yeah, you talk to them, and you're like, hey, when he enters, make sure he calls me immediately. Now, I'm not naive enough to say, hey, those conversations aren't with the players aren't happening,
Oh,
before they enter.
100%.
But I mean, legally you could do it, and it's not tampering. Like work those back channels.
I mean, and one of the things we've talked about this before on previous podcasts that, advisors and coaches do tell their kids, hey, let me know when you want to enter the portal
Yeah.
so I can start calling around to college coaches to figure out where they might be in need, or so that you don't jump into the portal and then there's no interest in you once you are in the portal. That's kind of the way. So, that's just the way the portal kind of works. And I do think A&M can still build a better infrastructure and being out in front of some of these big
Yeah.
names that do enter. So, it's going to be interesting there. Well, there's still going to be more to watch. I don't think they're quite done there there yet, but we will certainly continue to keep you updated over on GigEm247. Stay tuned after a quick break. We're going to be right back to talk a little more about the portal and look ahead to the 2023 season right after a quick break. Welcome back into the GigEm247 Sports Podcast. It's time for a buy or sell game that we've been playing the past couple of weeks. But again, Brian does not know the questions that I've kind of drawn up. So we're going to start off with sticking with the portal. Brian, buy or sell, Texas A&M needs to add, with Tyrin Smith in the fold, Texas A&M still needs to add another receiver to that room.
Oh yeah, they have to. If nothing else, literally just to get bodies at the position. I mean, they lost a number of guys, but they need a speedy outside guy. So Tyler Harrell's sort of the perfect one for that. And they've offered a bunch of outside receivers. Whether how hard they've pursued each one of those. I mean, that's some of them maybe not as hard as the others, but they definitely need an outside guy. I mean, Evan Stewart has to come off the field at some point. Moose Muhammad has to come off the field at some point. There's not really anything proven behind those guys.
No doubt. I think they need more of that. That they've targeted some of those bigger receivers, and I think that's still where they could kind of attack. A speed guy on the outside. I think Tyler Harrell was kind of the perfect fit. And they need to kind of look for more opportunities there. Some of those guys that can take the top off the defense. I know people kind of mentioned he wasn't productive. He had the foot injury at Bama last year and wasn't productive at all, but at least his speed puts pressure on the secondary, on the safeties, and could open up more opportunities for guys like Moose Muhammad and Evan Stewart to continue to be productive and take attention away from them. So, I'm with you. I thought maybe you'd be in the camp that they were in a good spot in that position, but I think they could use at least one more in that role. Sticking along that, buy or sell, they need another corner in the secondary.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's going to be tough to get, with the guys that are back. I mean, so who all's back at cornerback?
So you've got Chappelle, you've got Grimes,
yes.
You've got Sam McCall.
Yeah. Well, Sam McCall transferred more he's almost like a high school recruit. He didn't play a ton. Okay. Deuce Harmon. Yeah. He's more of a nickel, but oh man, looking at this, you know what? Maybe they do. I didn't think they did, but yeah, there's just nobody on the roster. I mean, Chappelle is a returning starter. Grimes has starting experience. Harmon, if he's healthy, but he's more of a nickel. And Bobby Taylor hasn't been healthy. Javon, yeah, they, you know what?
I'm kind of
wrong. They need another corner.
Just in terms of I think with one or two injuries in that room, you start getting to a point where you're having to rely on Bravion Rogers and Javon Thomas very early in the season. And
I mean, Javon didn't play this year,
and when Javon
he played running back.
Exactly.
Bravion Rogers is playing very small school, small town football. So I mean, it's going to be a big, just shock. They're both really good, but it's going to be a big shock with the transition to the SEC.
No doubt. I know they've already added 2, so the numbers there strike you as, again, that's one of the narratives they're going to have to battle, right?
Yeah.
Is they're going to have to battle the starter narrative there, and but they need an experienced guy just to kind of fill out that room and allow guys to come in and compete. And it goes back to the narrative. They've used it on high school guys, and it hasn't quite resonated maybe on other, but especially in the secondary. You need as many guys as possible in today's day and age with the way teams play and spreading people out. You need a lot of guys in the secondary to be able to make it through a season. And I think A&M could use another body there at least at corner, maybe safety.
That's going to be a tough sell though, because Tyreek Chappelle's an NFL guy. Nobody's beating him out. Tyreek Chappelle's a starter. No matter who they bring in, he's starting. Tony Grimes has experience, starting experience in the ACC, former 5-star. So, and he'll be there in the spring. Anybody A&M adds, since they didn't get the Ole Miss guys on campus, anybody they add will likely not be there until the summer. So
Yeah.
Grimes would also have just that added, whatever the word is I'm looking for, but of having been there in the spring, going through spring ball. So those two guys are probably your starters, and people want to come in and nobody wants to come in for depth if you're coming in the portal. And yeah, they'll play a bunch of guys, but nobody wants to come in just for depth. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a tough sell.
That might strike me as one of those ones that they have to kind of work the same angle that they maybe worked with Sam McCall of, you're almost treated as a high school guy, and
Yeah.
that you're a year removed from high school. You've got multiple years left, and say, look, after this year, potentially Tyreek Chappelle could be off to the NFL, Tony Grimes could be off to the NFL as well, and then you're sitting with a wide open opportunity. So play this year and then have a wide open opportunity moving into next year. I think that's probably the way to attack it. And then the
Yeah,
third,
those Ole Miss guys are both young, so that I
yeah,
think that was, so yeah, that probably is the direction. They'll just have to be, get kids that aren't the thing they're looking for is they just don't like whatever school they're at. Usually if somebody transferred that young, they're like,
yeah,
I'm just not happy there. So, not necessarily like I need immediate playing time. So yeah, good call there.
no, and it could be. I mean, there's former targets out there that are kind of intriguing. At least speaking of Ole Miss DBs, he didn't play a bunch last year, but Kendrick Breedlove is a guy that A&M offered out of high school and has kind of entered the portal, withdrawn his name from the portal, re-entered his name into the portal. And so that's a guy that, has multiple years, could use another year. I obviously committed when Durkin was there. And so that's a guy that could potentially, or at least is very familiar with Durkin.
Yeah.
Those are the type of guys I feel like you're going to have to attack, that maybe they weren't productive their first year, but are looking for kind of that new opportunity. I think that's where they're going to have to attack. But I think just to feel safe and just to feel good, one more body could be it. And then, as you know, Brian, now that the national championship's done, we're kind of into talking season and list season and all that, and filling the dead time before the season starts. And with the bold predictions and all that, Texas A&M has appeared on a lot of ones that it's kind of a make or break season for Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M coming off the 5 or 7 year. Are you buying this is kind of a make or break year for him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got the contract that, basically coach for life if he wants to be. But the pressure and just the talking points. I mean, it was loud this year. The
Yeah,
national media is like, what is going on? Especially what was it, 6 games in a row?
6 games in a
That they
row.
lost. I mean, that's too many. So, especially with all that, talk. I mean, it was loud. So if A&M has struggles again, it's going to be like just nuts. And A&M doesn't want that. Jimbo will be miserable, and that kind of deal. So yeah, I'd say so. I think if things don't work out this year, I mean, you would have to think they'd come to some kind of negotiated buyout. I mean, I'm not Jimbo. I don't know what, but
Yeah.
there's I mean, if you're a head coach, you gotta be prideful. I mean, it's what they do. And I mean, so
Mhm.
he couldn't be happy if that was the case, if there were 2 years in a row. So yeah, I think it definitely is. I'm gonna
Yeah.
buy. Was that the?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Buy. Yeah.
buy. Yeah.
I'm gonna buy it too from the standpoint of a recruiting angle too. And I kind of looked at honestly, I kind of looked at last year as a huge year on this front. We talked about how they had gone 8-4 and the year before that, and and there was already starting to be rumblings that, hey, A&M needs to start taking that step towards being a championship contender. And then they
Yeah.
went 5-7. So one of the things, at least when recruits have talked this year, and you can usually tell what the talking point that the A&M staff is kind of
Yeah.
using when multiple recruits kind of say the same thing. You can kind of get a sense for the messaging that the A&M staff and the way the A&M staff has kind of messaged this is, look, it was a really young team with a lot of
Yeah.
injuries. We had a historic number of injuries, and it's true on a lot of levels, but I don't think that excuse buys you another year. If this year doesn't go,
No.
at least if they don't take a big jump forward and start kind of getting into that national title conversation, the noise is just going to continue to get louder and louder and louder, and eventually you can't really overcome that on the recruiting trail, and then you've lost all momentum. And so I think this is a massive year for A&M. I think this is really kind of the make or break it year for Jimbo Fisher, the staff. I think they're treating it that way in many regards. I think they know they're aware of what's going on. Jimbo may say Jimbo doesn't have Twitter, but he's
I know,
certainly
yeah, it's like,
he's certainly aware of what's going on around the program and the
yeah.
noise. And
Every coach in the world has Google Alert set up. I think we learned
absolutely,
that for the first time when Dennis Franchione, before your time,
yeah,
but when it all came out that they were selling the newsletter and all that. I mean,
yeah,
people did open records requests for all the emails, and I think he was getting like daily emails with his Google alerts. Like I knew it. Like I
yeah.
know all of them.
I knew about
I know Sumlin did it too. Like
yeah
Jimbo's. You gotta have
a
you have to
pulse.
have that attitude just
Yeah.
like to be a head coach. I mean, you have to, you know, everything that's being said.
And I mean, Buzz Williams did kind of admit last week when he was talking about the Kentucky game. He said, "Listen, I read every." He kind of. I don't think he knows we do the same story. The everything X and X coach says we
Oh
kind of
yeah.
do that to kind of put. He was like, "Yeah, those Kentucky beat writers. They all write word for word what John Calipari says." He says, and I read all of it.
Yes.
I read every single sentence. He said, I read every single article, every single note as part of his scouting. And so, Buzz, we do those same stories.
Yeah.
I did
But
one.
he's
I,
not scouting himself, so I guess he's
I
not
was
paying
I was
attention.
doing I was doing that same story on Friday ahead of the Kentucky game, but yeah, no, coaches definitely have a pulse and awareness of the program. Now, some block it out better than others, but I think the staff certainly knows that the pressure's on, and this year it kind of needs to take a big jump forward. And they do still have a lot of talent on campus. It's just a matter of, is that talent going to be able to stay healthy, and two, be able to take that step forward that they need to take. That's really going to be the big question.
You think
Um,
Nick Saban is searching the internet on his flip phone? Like he's got T9 set on there, and he's like,
yeah,
what can I find?
little. Yeah, I wonder if he's got a little flip phone. He's got a little
That's what
BlackBerry. He's got a little
yeah.
BlackBerry with the little ball, and
Or maybe just one of those. Well, he's got a call recruits, but it's like one of those phones that have like two buttons, like emergency and like wife, like
Miss.
jitterbug or
I've
whatever they
got
call.
Miss Terry and,
Yeah.
and emergency are the two.
What's funny? Nick Saban's really not that old, but just his personality, just like, I don't think he's keeping up with technology. So his personality just makes you think he's one of those with those ones.
Oh,
Although,
I
man, he always
understand.
does that. What is it, Cupid Shuffle or whatever the dance is? So
I think
maybe he's
he
keeping up a
does.
little better than we're giving him credit for.
He kind of sneakily has some dance moves in there that he throws. No, I think he quietly keeps up a little more. He seems like kind of a like kind of one of those sneaky social media guys.
Yeah.
He pays attention to it. He doesn't tweet, but
Yeah, he's just
he's like,
laughing at like, oh, look what Lane Kiffin said to Jimbo again. And he's
yeah,
like
look what Lane
laughing
Kiffin said. Kind of sits in his office and kind of and scrolls through. Lane Kiffin, I think, is, or he might have Lane Kiffin muted. Who knows? He might have Lane. But anyway, we will certainly be back next week, and A&M's got another big visit weekend coming up. Again, we'll keep track of the transfer portal. It things seem to pop up very quickly. The Tyrin Smith one was done in what, 24 hours,
yeah, pretty
basically.
much.
Popped up on Saturday and was done Sunday night. So just over 24 hours. So we will certainly keep you up to date on that, and be sure to stay locked into GigEm247. And if you enjoy these videos, like and or give us a 5-star review, and like and share these videos on YouTube, and subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify if you listen to us on there. Till then, have a great week, and we'll see you guys soon.